Hey everyone, welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole on DomainSherpa. Jen and JT here, and as we say on DomainSherpa, all roads lead to domains. And in the reverse, our work with domains has us venturing all the time into new realms, hence the jump down the rabbit hole.
This is our tech adjacent digital assets, pop culture, tangent positive, anything goes, monthly-ish podcast with a dash of domain nuggets for good measure. We will explore provocative topics with our distinguished guests, touch on related news, and likely shower you with irrelevant trivia.
That's right. And to that end, on today's show, we've got the one and only Sean Markey, along with Shane, to talk about SEO and domains. And remember, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, you can also watch the video version at DomainSherpa.com and on our YouTube channel at ds.tv. You can also check us out on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms as well. And as usual, big shout out to Dan.com, the number one place in the world to buy and sell your domains with a special platform made for domain investors. Also, we're now integrating our shows with Muse.ai, which provides new search functionality for the shows and transcripts as well. So definitely check all that out.
With that, 'tis time to get curiouser and dive down the rabbit hole on DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains.
Let's go. What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Jonathan Tenenbaum, a.k.a. JT, a.k.a. Jayon, a.k.a. Sherpa Winfrey, a.k.a. the Mad Hatter, and I'm the host and producer of DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Today is another show in our Down the Rabbit Hole series, so welcome to the tea party. As we say here on DomainSherpa, all roads lead to domains, and in the reverse, our work with domains has us venturing all the time into different areas and things, some more familiar to us, crypto, NFTs, other digital assets, and plenty of others that aren't so familiar, hence the jump down the rabbit hole. This particular show is co-hosted by Jen and myself, and we describe it as a tech-adjacent digital asset, pop culture, tangent-positive podcast with some domain stuff thrown in for good measure. So we choose a topic or two we get into and maybe even cover some related news of the day, and we also bring on some interesting guests. On that note, today's topic is domains and SEO with the one and only Sean Markey, a.k.a. the SEOG. Yeah, I'm not even at the official AKAs and I'm already bringing the heat, y'all. I'm feeling pretty good about today. And, Sean's a friend and an expert in his space. So very, very excited to have him on the show today. So if it's cool with y'all, let me go ahead. I'm going to go around the horn, do the AKAs, and then I'll introduce Sean properly, if that's cool, unless you guys got anything in the meantime. Y'all... It's nice having the show without Drew because I don't get cut off before I can even get going. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah, we can all talk.
This is a nice show.
It's a nice show. Yo, let's go. All right. So over to my right, I got my girl Jen Sale, aka Aussie Osborne, aka Olivia Newton-Jen, aka Rocket Out Dundee, aka Dingo Star, aka Mel Born to Be Wild, aka Sipping on Jen and Juice. And in this show, Alice, what's up? How we doing down the rabbit hole? What's good? How you been? It's been a minute. And we've got this show this month. We've got another really cool one next month. We've got some really interesting things happening with the Down the Rabbit Hole series and with DomainSherpa in general. And but what's up, yo? How you doing?
Well, yeah, obviously we took a little bit of a break, which it's me. It's definitely me, as Taylor Swift would say. So April was like all of our family's birthdays. And then on May, I went on retreat to be Zen Jen. And now we're back. So exciting. But I got a funny story to tell you about Australia, as you brought it up. So I was waking up quite early in the morning, as I do. Usually it's dark because I like to get down the beach for like a walk around about sunrise. And I looked over and I'm like kind of coming to, and I saw this big black thing on my bed next to my pillow, and just instinctively swiped this thing, heard this dunk against the wall, and then I heard this little... Yeah, I'm dead set serious. It would have been a huntsman spider, and I don't know how big it was, but I can't find it. It's in my bedroom somewhere.
Everything about that story is terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't even have a good ending, you know? You're
This,
like,
this story is brought to you by Australian tourism.
wow. You know, living in Florida, we get it. But that's
Yeah,
pretty terrible. Like to hear the
it was
thud
bad.
and the fact that you haven't found it, it's like, oh, I'm sure it just left, you know? I'm sure it just said, oh, I'm out, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
This
planning.
to be continued for sure. All right. Well, cool. Not great, but it is what it is. Let's keep it moving here. To my lower right, we got my boy Shane Culture, aka Sugar Shane, aka Honey Shane, aka Mike Rowe, aka Blame It on the Shane, aka House of Shane, aka the Cultivator, Blue Oyster Culture, the Culture Personality, the Culture Club, doing it for the culture, aka In Shane in the Membrane, aka In Shane in the Blockchain. What's up, man? Coming live from Colorado. Talk to us. How's the summer going, man? How you living?
It's good. I mean, this is definitely our summer home for many, many years. Yeah,
Okay.
we're at 11,200 feet, thin air, no people, miles of trail. So yeah, I apologize for the wind. It's still work. We still have to work all here. So my daughter's working in one Zoom call. My wife's working in another Zoom call. We got 320 megabytes just blasting through the thin air of Colorado. So
Hey,
yeah,
that's all.
I got a similar story. I was driving. One of the things that my Bronco, I've talked about this Bronco I bought and I've wanted to use it. Illinois is not the greatest place to use it, but Colorado, there's just a million trails and you just head out. And I found this place that splits two mountains. And my wife, I took her back. I wanted to show her something that I had seen because there were a bunch of log cabins. The log cabins are there from the 1800s, just sitting there. Nobody's touched them. But out there, my wife goes, man, look at that horse. That wild horse is so beautiful. We get up to it. It's an elk, bigger than a horse. I hadn't seen elk except in the zoo, right? I'm not that, I
Yeah,
haven't
okay.
really, so, but man, I got up close and it was huge. Like that thing is big. Those things are bigger than horses. No wonder they hurt people. It's just
Yeah.
crazy. They are
Yeah.
monstrous. So yeah. So anyway, it's not a spider, but these bears and elk are serious things out here. We just don't have any of that in Illinois.
Yeah, no. Well, hey, man, first of all, I like how you're like 11,200 feet above. You know, that 200 feet is where you really get that extra thin air. You know what I mean? That's the
When
difference.
people come from 11,000, they can barely breathe. No, it does make a difference. Like I went to Colorado Springs and I saw Paul Nix, which was fantastic. This space is amazing. That even people, he was 2 hours away, but he said, "You want to have some breakfast?" I said, "Hell yeah, I'll drive. Go see some." We saw Garden of the Gods. Met his wife. That's what it's all about, man. It was just great. But going down to 5,000 feet, I felt like $1,000,000, man. It's like free oxygen down there.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You're like,
it,
well, I'm gonna
it
take
was
some of this back up with me.
exactly.
What
He ran about 40 miles.
so is Paul in Colorado? Like, is he spending more
He's
time there?
visiting family as well. Yeah, that's the thing. This time of year, everybody's visiting Colorado. No mosquitoes, good,
Uh,
good hiking. So Colorado Springs. It's crazy. I haven't been coming here that long, but just to watch the building of these towns. I mean, Denver's always been big, but Colorado Springs and Estes Park and Dillon and Frisco, it's absolutely crazy how much construction is going on here. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's where we're at. And you know
well,
why? It's kind of like
people
California.
gotta live somewhere, man, you know? And I think yeah, the no mosquitoes, the beautiful weather. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out on the West Coast. I mean, Seattle's beautiful in the summertime. I mean, people have this misconception about, what Seattle looks like. They think it's all grunge and rainy and nasty. And I remember the first time going out in like late July for a new NameJet board meeting and to the Enom offices or the Right Side offices at the time. And I mean, the weather literally couldn't have been better. And they were like, well, yeah, this is kind of what it's like, in July, August, and just don't tell anybody. We don't want more people. We don't want people coming here. And I think even as climate change takes more of a hold, it'll make the weather even better compared to everywhere else. So it's yeah, hey, but people,
Well, that's the thing is the all-time high here ever is 86 degrees. So it's never gotten hot. And there are no
wow.
homeless. Everybody's homeless here. Like everybody has a tent and a backpack. So there's no homeless people at all. No mosquitoes. And yeah, I like it. Everybody's got their thing, I just happen to like it. And I think the best thing is just see the world, little places at a time. And this summer, that's gonna be Leadville, Colorado for me.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Well, like you said, I mean, look, people have their things, and a lot of people just like beautiful weather and fresh air, and and even if it's a little thin. And the mosquitoes thing, I mean, being in Florida, like I get bit all the time and it's so frustrating. And that's the one thing that keeps our, like, the cost of living somewhat manageable where I'm at, is because if we had the no bugs and the no humidity, it would basically be where you are. It'd be San Diego, and it would cost twice as much to live here. So instead, it's like, hey, if you can deal with mosquitoes the size of baseballs, you know what I'm saying? Then, come on down. But everywhere's got their things. But that's awesome, man. Well, look, I think that's great. We'll talk more about it as we go. But let's slide to the star of the show. Let's get this thing moving and talk about something really like the stuff that people are tuning in for. All right, we got below me, we've got the one and only Sean Markey, aka Sean Markey Mark, aka X Markey's the Spot, aka Sean Grand Marquis, aka Sean Marquis to the City, aka Sean Marquis and Peel, aka the SEO Whisperer, aka Mr. SEO No He Didn't, aka Mr. SEO Say Can You See, aka the SEOG. What's up, man? For those of you who don't know, ranktheory.com, check it out. It is the newsletter. He lives in Castle Valley, Utah with his wife and assorted pets, cats, and dogs. He has been that dude for a long, long time. He's also an avid domain investor, which gives him unique insight within our world. And, and one time he met an owl in real life. So we've talked about spiders. We've talked about elk. And then you met the owl, man. I mean, I read it was on your site, dude. I had to bring it up, So how we doing, man? What's good?
I think that bio is a little old. Is on like my personal site?
I don't even know. I mean, it's on the internet. You know what I mean?
I was just about to say they didn't talk to Mayflower Moving Company. See that you had moved.
Oh no, are you no longer in Utah? Where are you at now?
I'm up in northern Vermont.
Oh, no way. Okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
So this gives us something to talk about right there. So how come you made the move? How long ago did you make the move? Let's get a little personal before we get into the business stuff. So what brought you to the East Coast?
Well, kind of the out west, it's dying. Like lack of water, lack of rainfall, heat. It's beautiful, like way up in the mountains, super nice. We lived in Castle Valley, which was in southeastern Utah, out by Moab.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 4,400 feet above sea level, and like we moved there in 2014, and it just slowly like stopped raining. So by the time we moved, like it just hardly ever rained at all, and the Colorado River's like getting lower every year. We were like, let's go somewhere where there's some water, where it rains. And like we're both lucky enough to work from home, my wife and I, and to have the cash to fund a move like that across the country. So we moved out here in July of 21.
Oh wow, okay. And how you like it?
It's great. We do have mosquitoes, which aren't great. I grew up in Charleston and lived in Florida, so I'm used to that.
Okay.
But we didn't have those in Castle Valley as much. They're still around. But yeah, no, it's beautiful up here. Super green. We moved to like a 1.7 acre piece of property, an old farmhouse. We've got like a huge pond in the backyard. No spiders, no moose or elk, but we have a family of geese that grew up around the pond, and saw them go from little chicks to like weird looking dinosaurs, before all their feathers grow in. It's nice. I really like it up here.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, well, in Florida, we've got that's actually, we moved into a new house recently, and the spiders are actually it's the spiders, the mosquitoes, and the deer flies are all pretty nasty because we're kind of in the swamp. We're near TPC Sawgrass, and they talk about how they built the golf course in the swamp, and, they actually have the budget and the money and the ability to eliminate a lot of the bugs and the nasty stuff. We live like amongst all of it, but, so... That's what it is, though. But hey, summertime, man, we're getting it in. So all good. All right, well, cool. So, because, Shane, you were talking about as part of your little tour of the U.S. summertime thing that you were going to be spending some time with Sean. I actually thought, to me, it made sense thinking he was still in Utah because I figured you do the Colorado thing, staying out kind of West Coast, go further south, and then camp out with him for a little bit down there. So you're actually going to be coming back to the East Coast then for a little bit.
Yeah, I want to see the fall colors. I mean, there's no better fall colors in the world than where Sean lives. So
This is
he was
true.
kind enough to, I do need to get him a definite date, but he was kind enough to say, I'd love to have your family there. So I'm gonna, and being a nurseryman and a tree grower, I really appreciate the fall color. So yeah, I'm gonna visit Sean and see a good friend and see the best fall color in the world.
Dude, you're an old soul, bro. Really. Like, and I get the whole, like, the landscape thing gives you, like, the nursery vibe gives you like an appreciation, but you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna go to Vermont and just see the fall colors, the fall foliage. It's like cool.
And millions of people do that. Literally half the world, has that on their bucket list. Come on now.
No, I get it, man. I grew up in the Northeast, man. I get it, but I just think it's funny. I just think it's cool. I want to be you when I grow up, man, for real. Um, so all right, well, let's do this. Let's get into some stuff because I think the folks who are going to tune in, and like I said, one of the things that I think is amazing about Sean and his background, and we've, kind of crossed paths a good bit, some of the work that he's done with Drew and others, is that, he really does have not only the knowledge of all things SEO, but, how that then ties in and dovetails into domains and domain investing or, through the lens of a domainer. So let's kind of slide right into that, Sean. I mean, if you want to give us just a couple minutes of your background, I know you've been on the show before, so I don't want to have to make you do too much of a deep dive into your, bio, but, really kind of focus on a little bit of your background and then how you got, as involved in domains as you have. I think pretty cool if you want to share some of that.
So I started my professional career as a special ed teacher out in Utah. I graduated in like 2009, which was like the worst possible time to graduate and try and get a job because even like teachers that had been working for decades were, getting fired, getting let go. So it wasn't great, but I found like a cool little alternative school to work at, and they gave us a great schedule. I think we started at like 9 o'clock, and we had a 90-minute lunch break, and we didn't have to work Fridays. So it gave me a lot of time to like explore other stuff. And I just kind of landed in internet marketing, and especially SEO. And so I did the whole thing back in 2011, like registering the worst possible domains, just trying to get that exact match. Cause that used to be something that helped your SEO game. If I remember one of my sites was helmetsforsale.net. Terrible name, super bad. But I was trying to rank for, helmet related terms and just get that Amazon affiliate money or that AdSense money. And so that's kind of where I started. And, like everyone else, I'd go to, GoDaddy or whatever, try and register a domain and everything good's taken. And it's like, what the hell? So I kind of got interested in looking out for like, names that were worth building on, essentially. And then around that time, like not to go too deep into it, but like PBNs were really getting popular, private blog networks. So people would like just buy these names that had some kind of SEO value and put up a really horrible site on them just to get a link to their site, or if you were smart, to sell a bunch of links to other people. And like that's where I really got into domains, looking to buy names with juice just to try and build like a PBN.
Okay, and when you say juice, so for people who don't know, what's juice? When you're talking about link juice,
it's a really stupid way to say. I use it ironically, sort of. It's a really stupid way to say like SEO authority. Like it was a site that was around that people linked to, and people got press, got media. And so it has backlinks and it has authority. It has topical relevancy in some kind of space. And so that's what I mean when I say juice. I'm really saying authority.
Yep. So in that case, you're talking basically Google, somewhere in the Google, history and ecosystem or what have you, that site for a particular term or something, there's something that will give it visibility or, we'll have it ranking higher effectively for those search terms in Google is basically what you mean, right?
Yeah. The most common way you'll find these names now is if like one company acquires another and redirects the domain to their new thing. And then 3 years later, whoever did the acquisition forgets about it and it expires and it's just got a bunch of links going to it. and those sell for a lot of money. And the kind of domains in the past that you would see were a lot of conference domains, like conference name, 2012.com. Like those would be good for a year, and then they would expire. They'd have a bunch of links point to them. So that's how a lot of really terrible PBNs were built, on those kind of names.
Well, that's pretty interesting. It's interesting that it would be conferences that would have all these things pointing to them, and have all those backlinks. All right, so that's cool. So then, what are some of the early? So when did you start actually investing in buying domains? Like when timing wise, when was that?
Probably around 2015. I was trying to buy PBN domains, and then I would say more toward 2017, I started trying to buy like actually good domains that we would build on, or a domain that was decent and also had a good backlink profile. Finding one that had both was a lot rarer and was worth a lot more money.
Cool. Jen, you got any questions or anything you want to chime in? I don't want to dominate and make this like a me, Sean, because I've got some Shane tie-ins to do here too. But
yeah, no, I find it all really interesting. I started working for an online casino around 2000, 2001. And that was really when I first got introduced to SEO. But I mean, back then, I have no idea what's going on today, because it is such you think the domain industry is actually quite slow, but the SEO stuff, it's changing all the time. But yeah, I find it really interesting. And hey, probably some of those websites that you picked up were ones that I actually worked on to get all the traffic to these online casinos, because we were creating portals, mirrors. It was just about creating these intra networks, so you could build you could actually manipulate the search engines back then, but can't do that anymore.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yes, the good old
when
days.
SEO was easy.
It was so easy. And
really
now
funny
I have no idea.
A lot of the industries, and especially in and around the internet, everyone likes to harken back to the good old days, when you could register premium oneword.coms and, or get them relatively cheap, and, and everything continues to get sort of more complicated, more, harder, things like that. So you were talking about 2015, starting to buy some domains. Offline, we were talking a little bit. You were saying Shane's blog was one of the resources that you would use. And but when did you guys actually get to know each other? Is that in and around that same time, just kind of in the domain space, or what's up?
You want to tell a story, Sean? I always tell the story how we met.
Go for
it. Sean's a little shy, and when he's I can see why. I did not know that he's a special ed teacher, because my mom is a learning disabled behavior disorders teacher. So, and they have to have a cool, calm, confident personality. And now that I know that Sean did that, I can completely see that. He definitely has exactly that. But when we were at Domain Fest, I think, or I can't remember, one of the domain conferences, we were all in a circle talking. A lot of people that knew each other, had been around a while. Sean said 2013, 15, he came around. Well, we were 2005 earlier, 2008, 9, depending who you are. And Sean really wasn't participating in the conversation. And I know a lot of people like that. I'm sure he was there for a reason, wanted to meet people. So I included him in the conversation and did that. I can't remember exactly how, but after the conference, he kind of emailed or let me know and said, I really appreciated you doing that. A lot of people just let me sit outside the circle and not include me. And I've remembered that ever since. The story may not be exact, but that was kind of the gist of it, that it kind of taught me that to try and include people in conversation when you're in big groups, when everybody knows each other, to not forget that just because you know everybody, there's not room for somebody else in the group. And that's kind of how it all started. And now we work together, and we can go over this more later, but now we work together in business and we talk fairly regularly, and we've worked on DSAD. We're working on Big Island. So we work on things together and kind of enjoy each other's company and skills.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So he's helping you with Big Island. What are you guys doing there? What's going on with that?
Well, the one thing I can say there is if you do domain auctions, you know that there's something going on above and beyond a domain name. Because if you go look at the top auctions, they're not straight raw domain names. They're names that don't make any sense, and they're going for 5 figures. So that alone should tell you that there's much more behind the scenes going on, and it tells you that Google trusts a name. If Google trusts it, it's more valuable. So I had a name, Big Island. The Big Island, which is the name of the Big Island in Hawaii, one of the most tourist island in the world. And I thought it was a great name. And Sean emails me and says, bigisland.org is coming up for auction. And I thought, bigisland.org, that's not as good. But it turned out to be the tourism site for all of the Big Island for the state of Hawaii. But the state of Hawaii turned to Go Hawaii, and that made that the official tourism name and let bigisland.org go with all this juice and all these backlinks. And Sean said, got to move to this name, man. Like, that's where all the action is. I said, well, what do I do? And he did something that it sounds so simple now, but not everybody knows. He took all the backlinks that were existing and let them lead somewhere. So they all went to nothing at the time. I think I spent $10,000 on that domain name. And Sean took all those links and set up information so that every link, or most of the good links, led to something, so it didn't die in the water. And that's how I learned SEO a little bit. And that's kind of the basic premise of everything, right? Letting things flow through. Google saying this is a really good website, but eventually decide it's not because there's nothing there. It ends. But if you keep it going, then Google essentially will let it live and keep giving it authority, and then you can build on that. So not to tell you exactly what Sean does for a living, but I certainly learned through Sean exactly how it all works.
No, and these are the good nuggets. This is the good stuff that the audience wants to hear about, right? So talk to me about, so you bought bigisland.org, right? You would have seemed like, and I remember we talked about this on a Sherpa show, on a Sherpa review, and on its face, it would be like, seem like you overpaid for it, right? But because it's got all this link juice. So basically you're taking links that people are linking to the site, but they were not linking to active pages. So is that what it is? So for example, there would have been a site like at Hawaii.com that was pushing to the bigisland.org/something that was no longer active. Maybe it was an old vacation package, or it was just a page that was well, I guess none of the pages were active anymore because you bought the
So for instance, let's say best beaches on the Big Island, and it's at TripAdvisor. And so before I bought it, the best beaches on the island led to not even a 404, led to nothing. And then Sean came in and said, let's put up an article on the best beaches of Hawaii. And now you go to TripAdvisor, click on it, and it comes to our site. So instantly you go from no traffic to thousands of not daily, but thousands of monthly, depending on the site. But you get free traffic
depending on the site, the link, all that stuff. But immediately you get real traffic.
Link building. We all live to build links, right? Sean, for a living, builds links. It's very expensive. It's time consuming. And here you have a package of links that all you have to do is finish them up. And I say all you have to do, that's not a small feat. You literally have to write articles behind them. But that's essentially what he's talking about when he says he's got a website with juice. The juice needs to be squeezed in order to get the juice.
Is the juice worth the squeeze? I say that, I use that on the show all the time. Saiger he's like, we could do a drinking game. Although I don't do it as much ever since he really called me out on it. But but no, I think that makes a ton of sense. So then let's assume I don't know anything about SEO, which isn't that far from accurate. So if I buy a domain and I want to know what backlinks exist, can I see that ahead of time, or do I have to wait till I own the domain to be like so?
So there's SEO tools that will show you this, and the big three are Ahrefs, SEMrush, and Moz. Those three, if you put in the name, they're all paid premium tools. But you put in the name, it'll show you what links it's got, who's linking to it, what page it's linking to, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, we use Ahrefs, for a bunch of stuff, and SEMrush. And then Moz is just Moz.com. What's Moz? What's the Moz.com? So, so no, it's all, and there's no doubt. I mean, we use Ahrefs, I think, Well, no, either that or .db is another one actually too, but for domain data that, some of the things that we do. But all right, cool. Well, I think that is just crazy interesting. So, and look, and running NameJet for the years that I did, there's no doubt. I mean, it was funny because at first I was like, I didn't know any better, and I mean, I kind of knew how the stuff worked, but when you'd see certain names that were like some long 15 character .org or something that was selling for thousands of dollars, and you're like, what the is going on? Is this some kind of fraud or scam or what's happening? And but yeah, it's link juice, baby. So everybody's just trying to get that.
So
juice.
I'll go ahead and lead a little bit, Sean. If you get a site or a domain that has this juice, what are like the first 5 things you do once you do that? What's your initial things you're going to do when you have a domain?
Mm-hmm. The first thing to do, and this is something that people who are domain investors who try and get into this to buying these are not good at doing, is put a site on it. Any site, put something up, because the longer it sits and just the page is 404 or whatever code, it loses its value. Like it loses trust with Google's algorithm because nothing's there and something used to be there, so now it looks abandoned. So even if you install WordPress and spin up 5 crappy articles from AI or whatever, just put something on the site. That's the main and most important thing. The next thing is to use one of those tools I was talking about. I use Ahrefs the most, and you can go in and see what are the top pages by links. You can sort by links. So this page has 50 links going to it. The next one down has 38 or whatever, and make sure those pages are resolving. Again, you can just put up it's super easy these days because you can go to ChatGPT or one of these other companies and get some AI content made, put it up. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be,
and it doesn't have to be good. It just has to be. I love that.
Right.
That's good.
So, and then, make sure these pages that have a bunch of links are resolving, that something's going on there. That's probably the second most important thing. And then you can take your time a little bit, get some good content written, make the site look nice, do a little customization. And SEO best practices like interlinking, linking from this page that has a bunch of domains going to it, which makes it more powerful, to another page that has maybe less domains going to it, but you still want it to rank, still kind of want to juice it up. Those are the most important things.
Okay.
So how does the time frame work? What would you say is the deadline from an acquisition of a name to when you should be rolling out these sites? I remember indexing, and they used to say the spider will crawl. People would kind of drop it. You'd find out, okay, the spider's going to crawl in 2 months or whatever it is. And how does that work now? Is that, or is just indexing? Is it just real time?
So the most valuable domains that are expiring are the ones that are still indexed. So they don't drop out of Google's index as they go through the expiration process. There's some that, will still rank for hundreds or thousands of keywords as they're going through the expiration process, just because they're so trustworthy and they had such a good reputation. And those are really the names that you see going for a lot of money, because once you take over it, it's ready to go. You just put up some content, it starts ranking, you can you start doing your things. But to answer your question, there's not really a time. People can be lazy. I'm certainly one of them. And sometimes I just won't touch a domain for 30 days because I got other stuff going on or whatever. It can still rank once you put some content on it. It's I guess it's a deal breaker once it's no longer indexed. For me, that's where I draw the line. But once it falls out of that index, and there's not really a time after this long it happens or whatever. It's just when Google crawls the site enough times and sees that there's nothing there, they'll stop crawling it.
They basically say we out. They abandon the shit. All right. Well, so that's so when we're talking about domains that already have a little bit of link juice that you're buying an auction or what have you, right? So really what people should be doing if they're buying a domain that has some of that value tied into this, this history and the link juice, they really should follow the steps like what you said, which is go and get, go get some pages resolving for the key pages that have lots of links and, all that kind of stuff. Now, what about other domains that you buy? Anything that's just, sort of a generic kind of, if it doesn't already have the link juice, right? Then when you're buying a domain, are you buying it just to put in your portfolio and then let it do what it do? Or are you thinking if it's let's say it's a generic word that, on NameJet, when we run through our NameJet lists, come across things like, tow bars or something, just like a word that might be a product, somewhat of a generic term. Are you buying names like that and standing up like sites, or if it doesn't have the link juice, you just buy names and just not touching them because you're not trying to, unless you're building them out? Like what's your process there?
So for me, and what I've always tried to do, if I see a name that is in the industry I'm focused on, and I'm like, damn, that's a good brand. Like, it doesn't have any juice. A lot of the sites that you're buying that have existing authority are not great. They're not great domains. Like we were talking about the conference domains with like 2012 attached to it. Like you can build a site on that and like maybe get some traffic going and get some affiliate income, but like it's not a great brand. It doesn't really represent anything to the people going there. Like, doesn't stand out in the search results when you're looking at, which site should I click on after I search for this. So what I always tried to do was, when I found a brand like that, I'd take a site that I bought that had juice, that I built it, now it's ranking for stuff, but it's an ugly brand, and I would redirect it, like acquire it, or like rebrand to this new premium domain that's a better brand. So using a 301 redirect, which is just a code, an HTML code, you just can push all the content and all the links to this new destination. And so now your premium domain is ranking well instead of the less good one. Like, for instance, with the Hawaii site, like we could take the bigisland.org and then rebrand that to thebigisland.com if we wanted to have like a real big, nice brand.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you if, hey, can you take all the sort of juice that's built in behind the .org, and since he's got the .com, can you leverage that and turn the .com into the? So you can. You just got to redirect it, right?
Yeah, and like it can lose like not maybe 100% goes of the authority, but enough goes that if you're still working on it and still building it out, it'll get back to where it was most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I always say it's like a restaurant. So you have a restaurant that's pretty popular out 12 blocks off the main street, and you build up a good clientele, and they come every day, and you think, well, I could get more customers if I go on the main strip. So you put a sign up in your restaurant saying, we've moved to the main strip. Well, you're going to lose some customers because they're going to come there and not go to your new place. Sure. But generally, you're going to start getting people that come over to your new restaurant, and you're going to get the new people that walk by. So you just have to give it a little time. And that's kind of how all these redirects work.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. That's a great metaphor, by the way. And well done, Shane. Well done. And
I have to dumb everything down for me, because Sean is brilliant at all this, and I have to understand why he's doing it. And he does a good job explaining it, but I have to, like, when I explain it to other people what I'm doing, okay, imagine I got a restaurant. Well, there's a lot of people eating here, but I have a shitty building. So I got to get a good building where everybody sees it. But how do I get them to my new building? Well, I put a sign that says, go over here. So that's essentially what you're doing.
I like it. I like that a lot.
MediaOptions is the industry's leading domain broker, specializing in domain acquisitions, high-value domain sales, and domain name consultation. As pioneers and thought leaders on the subject of the domain aftermarket and domain name value, plus through their clear domain acquisition service, MediaOptions offers startups and established corporations an unparalleled scope of high-value domain options, providing access to domain names and curation technologies not available elsewhere. MediaOptions believes in the power of a great domain name and is dedicated to helping you obtain yours. Call or email today to put a domain to work for you.
You guys are working together on all that stuff. Anything else that you can talk about that you guys are currently working on together besides the Big Island and some of the DSAD stuff? I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I know you got a couple of your hands in a few different pies.
No, Sean, I mean, I'm retired, so I'm always looking for new ventures and new ideas. And we've all gotten together on ideas, and it's, we talk about barriers to entry, and barriers to entry are great in the fact that if you can get past it and form a business that's hard to do, then can be super scalable. And just like Sean said, with these, if you have a conference domain with 2012, you're not going to scale that. That's not a business. So Sean and I constantly talk about things that we can scale and what we can do. We haven't found it yet, but Big Island is something we're going to build out and realistically sell. As I looked forward my life, my dream was to move to the Big Island and write content and take pictures and go out every day and build. But the reality of it is I can't move 6 hours off the coast. So Sean and I have decided to just build it out and probably sell it when it's all said and done. And I couldn't think of a better partner to give half to than Sean, because more than half the work, I'm giving him half, but he's doing more of the work because SEO is tough. You're competing against, just like we talked about AI, everybody's writing articles. Millions of articles an hour are going out there that you have to compete against. And a lot of them are really good. So how do you make them personal? How do you make them stand out? How do you put up content that's going to compete against all those things? And Sean's doing that, but those are obstacles he faces every day too. And link building, like we talked, you can't just go, hey, my name's Sean, I would like a link on your site. What can I do to get on there? It's just not that simple. Yeah. So, but Sean's a super valuable person to have when it comes to, because that is marketing. When we pay for marketing, all you're doing is trying to get them to your site. Sean is doing marketing on the back end of getting them to your site for a free charge. So that's kind of where.
Yeah. So Sean, I have a question. If you're looking at the auctions and you're searching for an SEO rich name, like, are there like numbers that you have in your mind about like, okay, it should have X amount of backlinks. It should be, X years old. Like, are there like any, and I guess this could be a little bit secret saucy that you don't want to put all this out there, and that's totally fine, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah. The answer to everything in SEO is it depends. So for me, like a name could be 2 years old, not very old, and not have that many backlinks, but all the links that are there are like super niche relevant. Like, so if I have a cannabis site there, it's all from, all these weed blogs and all these brands, and like that's super valuable compared to something that's 20 years old and has, maybe a couple like New York Times or NBC.com or, links like that. It won't help you rank as well as something that has like very niche relevant. So for me, I first look for, I make sure it's indexed, and then I look for what keyword is it ranking for, if any. If it's ranking for a bunch of industry relevant keywords, like, the Hawaii site was ranking for a bunch of things related to Hawaii as it was expiring. So it's like, all right, this name has a lot of trust. So that's very valuable. And then, what does the backlink profile look like? Does it have a lot of niche relevant backlinks? Or, even if it has a bunch of like Forbes, New York Times, those kind of backlinks, that's super valuable too. But it'll help you rank better in your industry if it has industry relevant backlinks.
Yeah.
So
and then is it like,
go ahead.
What about what about like traffic numbers? Like, is that of importance, or is it would you put way more weight on like the relevance of the backlinks as opposed to the amount of traffic?
Yeah, it's kind of a function of what it ranks for. If it ranks for 1,000 keywords, even if they're not the best keywords, it's going to be getting some traffic. So it's like they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yep. And ultimately the more traffic you guys get, then that means the more opportunity for affiliate revenue, right? And then that's going to increase the value of the overall business and websites. And then when you look to sell it, it's like, hey, look, we put this amazing site together that has some pretty good functionality, and it's doing this much a month in affiliate revenue, and with the potential to do more for somebody who wants to maybe put some more time and effort and money into it. Is that the general goal of something like this?
Yeah, it's all about how much it makes per month, and then you're selling a multiple of that. So like the average these days is like 42 to 45x. So since making 1,000 a month in ads and affiliate revenue, it generally sells for like you could sell it for 42, 45.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
and
we should
and
then
the one
do
thing,
a bunch of sites that do thousands a month and then sell them. That would be cool.
It's not easy, but yeah, that's the dream.
Let's just do that. That works.
And that used to be Aaron Wilkin, that was my partner for DSAD. He's the AD in DSAD. That's what he did. He had 7 sites that made income, and he traveled the world on those sites until eventually they fell out of favor and then had to do other things. But that's essentially how he made a living back in 2005, 7, 8, 9, just with building those quick little sites. Unfortunately, you can't do that. And what I was going to say earlier is the affiliate money and Google AdSense, it's a tough game. Sean and I talk about that every day. That's just not where it's at. It's really, really tough to make a good living on that. You certainly can add to the pie, but you need to be selling sites or drop shipping or white labeling or all that kind of stuff to really make any kind of money nowadays. You need to set up other partnerships with manufacturers to really make decent income in the game.
Yeah, no, I get that. So for Big Island, what's the goal as far as like, are you trying to tap back into then like the booking engines and things? So ultimately, people.
Yeah, so that is an opportunity. So if you have a travel site, the money is in flight bookings and vacation bookings. That affiliate is a big one, but it's also very competitive. They won't take just any site when you're getting added to that. The other thing is to selling property. So if you have an Airbnb, you have to have a realtor on there. So I do have someone that's interested in setting up that portion of the site, but it needs to be bigger and better when that comes to it. We're just not there yet. He said it just needs to have more traffic, has to be a better site for me to do that. And he is a realtor in Hawaii and a domain investor at the same time. So there's that opportunity as well. Travel books are good. Like right now, I don't make a lot of money, but I link, when I went there was a book that absolutely was the best guidebook I've ever had. And everybody you see on the Big Island literally has this blue book in their hand. So that was the first thing I put right up on there. And it makes, like $40, $50 a month. That's 40 or 50 a month. It's not a lot of money, but it's money I didn't have. So there's things like that. But, I'm not going to sell a product. I guess conceivably I could take the book, but I'm not going to beat Amazon in that. And I don't really want to be shipping out the blue books because Amazon has the trust. But ideally on a website, I would be selling product at some point in time. Whereas a travel site, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. But in general, affiliate money and AdSense, you really got to get some numbers going to get some numbers.
And when you do like kind of go, sorry, JT.
Oh, you're good.
When you do go down the like affiliate route, Sean, I'm interested particularly with like Big Island, like do you go through like the affiliate networks like CJ, Sherpas, or do you go like direct to a merchant like an Amazon or a specific like a booking.com and signing up to those affiliate networks to get those partnerships set up?
Yeah, that's definitely where you start. In general, everyone starts with Amazon because they have everything. No matter what thing you pick, like Amazon probably sells it. So, that's a good starting point, or like going through CJ or Sherpas or whatever, because there's just a lot of vendors there. So it's easy to find a product, link it up.
CJ, for those at home, that's Commission Junction. But for those who don't, I'm sure almost everybody knows, but anyway.
That's
what I'm here for. I don't know, like it's all good.
No, that's good. I don't want to use too much jargon and be exclusive. So yeah, that's definitely where you start. And then kind of the best case scenario is if you get to a point where you're driving a lot of valuable traffic and it's converting, then you reach out to the manufacturer or the product owner and directly and be like, hey, we're bringing the traffic, we want to negotiate better terms. So then instead of like 10% through Sherpas, maybe they'll give you like 25% and you just go directly through them or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I find that interesting. Obviously we've got other projects and we're always like dabbling in this kind of stuff as well, just developing little sites out and testing things. I find it interesting that Amazon, even if you are referring traffic and it is targeted, but if you don't have a conversion with them in a particular like time frame, they just can your account. And then you have to reapply all over again, and then you have to redo links. It's just, and their platform, don't get me started on that dashboard. I can't really Amazon, guys.
They're a terrible partner for sure. I was just a quick anecdote. I had a cannabis growing affiliate site back in 2020. That was, I guess we were doing like 7,000 to 10,000 in affiliate revenue. That's how much we were making for a very small percentage of what the sale was. And in like April of that year, they're like, "Oh, we're changing the terms of the sale from 8% to 3%," which was just like a disastrous change, and it just happened with like 20 days notice. So that's definitely kind of the risk of working with someone like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but I think for the Big Island, I mean, to me, it's cool because you kind of have like obviously travel is something, but there's some lifestyle opportunity, lifestyle brand type opportunity around the Hawaii lifestyle, and so maybe you could get into some merch. Speaking of merch, I don't know if anybody is noticing here on the show. It's about to go down. So Shane, I'll need to know where you're dressed, like where you're actually going to be in a week or so when I start shipping these out to everybody, all the featured guests as well as the winners of the domain game. So, this is actually the second show that's airing. We recorded a show a couple days ago where I was rocking one of these little Sherpa hoodies, and big shout out to Jen who helped us like with the logo. You notice there's a little bit of a refresh happening on Sherpa at the moment. And actually, Sean,
it's a great segue, JT.
Right? Actually, Sean, so we are looking to refresh the website. And so we've got some questions, and some of this we can talk about offline, but the one of the things that we need to look at, because the site that Saiger developed and designed, fantastic job, Michael. But it was also like 100 years ago, right?
Mm.
Dinosaurs were still roaming the earth. Dinosaurs were roaming the Big Island was still attached to California. It was a long time. But anyway, so as we're trying to, so Jen is also very involved in this, and big shout out to Jen for all the hard work she's putting in on that. Trying to figure out links and things like that to make sure that when you do a site, call it a refresh or even a migration to a new site from an old site to a new site, what are some of the general rules that, and again, offline, we can get a little bit more specific into our scenario, but it definitely has opened up a whole lot of discussion on our side, which is, how do you make sure you don't screw up your existing site, your existing rankings? Should all the links continue to go to active pages or redirect to an active page? Do the pages need to be consistent? Do the images on page from one page to another need to be the same? Like, what are some general rules of thumb when you're talking about a site rebuild?
Don't break all the links. Don't just be like, oh, we should change the URL structure from this, to put a subdomain like /podcast/ whatever. And now all the old links like don't work anymore. You can do that and like redirect each one to each one. That's better than just breaking everything. So don't break everything, I guess, is my first suggestion. As for like, if the content changes, it doesn't matter that much as long as it's still like good and rich. If the images change, it doesn't matter. I think if the title changes, that can get more complicated. So like, the URL, that's important. The H1, the title is also important. And then, like where you have, like this post links to this post, like all the internal links, you don't want to also break all those.
So keep the links
consistent. Made my job a
consistent.
lot harder, Sean. So thanks.
So we want to keep the links consistent so that they continue to go to pages that have at least equal or better, like rich content is what you're saying, right? So because we've got a couple of things in the old site structure, right? There's a dictionary of terms, for example, that talks about all these domaining terms. So instead of sending those all to, like a new catch-all page or even to the home page or something, like having a redirect, we'd still want those to go to a page that would then, kind of have the same sort of content, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like if you're going to keep that around, if you're like, oh, this doesn't bring a lot of value or whatever, then, take that and redirect it to somewhere else, especially if it's got links coming in.
Okay, so that's an important thing. So then that's also a matter of taking a look at the site, seeing the pages, seeing what's linking to the pages. So we understand, hey, which pages are the important pages? So now when you talk about the importance of pages, are you talking about the links coming in, or are you talking about traffic to the site, or to that page? Like which one matters more? Does one not matter? I know that we've already said links going to a page, it matters. What about the traffic going to that page?
I mean, the traffic is just a function of, how the page is ranking or what other site is referring a link to your site, so as long as you like keep that intact, and if you're changing the page, just redirect it somewhere else, then the traffic will follow, basically.
And then it's a matter of what do you want the
probably
traffic to do, right? So if the traffic's going to a page that's not really converting in any kind of meaningful way, then it's a matter of like, do you want it to convert? And if you do, then you have to think about where you really want that traffic going and what you want them to do once they get there. It's like, hey, we have all these people coming into a restaurant, but it's all the people coming out of Sunday church and all they do is order the bottomless coffee, versus, hey, we really want them, we want people coming in and ordering, drinking, because that's the most high margin stuff. So let's point them to the bar, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm trying to piggyback off of Shane.
What you want to do is find out who's coming and why they're coming, right? And then find out if that's important. So once you have a page you're trying to decide whether to keep or not, you can see how much traffic am I getting and where is it coming from, and is that important? So if you have one link that comes from some small person and that's it, and you're not getting much traffic, then it's obviously not as important, and you can maybe change it to a better page that will draw traffic. So it's just a matter of figuring out where all the links and all the traffic are coming. It really comes down to links. The traffic follow the links, and same with Google as well. And you can track all that. The difference between a restaurant and your website is you don't know why they're coming into your restaurant because they're not going to tell you. But your website, you can tell pretty much where everything's coming and why it's coming.
I think that's good stuff. All right, Jen, we've got some work to do. We've got to catalog some of the pages a little bit more.
The other thing that I would say,
we've got work to do. Did you just say
it's the royal we, it's the royal we.
And Sean, tell me if you agree with me on this one. One of the important things with a video site is to put up a transcript. Google's not going to look through your video and read it. They're going to see the words. The other thing is, if anybody's on your site, you should encourage them to put a Seen on Sherpa button on their website that gives you a free link back. So every person that's ever been on that they're proud to be on the show, and you want them to put a link to their video. You don't need them to put it to the main site. You want them to put it where they were, brag a little bit, and that's just free links over and over and over. Francois from Domaining was the king of that. He did a great job with that.
Oh, speaking of Francois, by the way, I saw you talking a little smack on Twitter on Francois's behalf last week, where the guy who didn't want to buy the
his SEO. It was an SEO thing. So he was, and again, I have no problem with this gentleman. I have no problem with anybody. He had smallbets. .co.
Yeah. And I followed him. Daniel, I followed him.
He's been on the show. He's been on. He doesn't follow me. You've had him on the show. He was on DomainSherpa.
He's got an interesting journey.
Previous site. Yeah, so he's a great guy, very successful. But the two things that I say is .com or better. We know it's an upgrade domain, and he put, when you negotiate things, we know that .com, he's going to lose some traffic just by nature. We've been in this. Sean does this enough. We all do this enough that there is some traffic being lost to .com. Will they get back to him? I'm sure. The second thing that I kind of joked about is, I assumed it was a gambling site without even going to the site. And it's not a gambling site. It's a completely different site. So I talked about gambling. And then once he said it's not gambling, I go, well, that's kind of a problem too. Because most people, when they read your domain name, it has to exude or kind of say what your company does. Or at least you have to brand it. You don't want to anti-brand your domain name. It could be a generic and you have to tell them what you do. But if they think it's one thing hard out of the gate, then you've got to work against that and then tell them. But he did disagree with that, and I completely understand. But he put it all public, and that's pretty tough negotiating when you put out exactly what you paid and what the person said. And I just told Francois, I was like, this is a good gambling name. I know Small Bets does it. It's not $1 million name, but he's been kind of hard on you. Make sure you don't give in too easy. That's the only thing I said, which was
well, and I wonder how much of that is engagement farming, right? These guys that are these, pseudo influencers and stuff. And look, Daniel has had a really neat journey leaving Amazon and kind of, and it's pretty cool that he does out there in the public sort of, explain his journey of leaving Amazon and what he was making and the stock that, he was getting. by leaving to go do his own thing and the quality of life improvements. And then he, published his book and how, what that looked like and how to improve some of that to make more, it's really neat, but once you put your whole stuff out there, then now you're putting everything publicly, including negotiating or belly aching about a domain. And you wonder if it's like, all right, well, if I can't get it, then I'm going to talk about it, because then at a minimum, people, it'll get people, chattering, and there'll be engagement, right? And then, you're going to get the domainers that are going to come all in and be like, you don't understand domains. And, and it's a combination of people that are reasonable folks, to like people that just say ridiculous shit. And then you kind of get, all shapes and sizes. Jen, you were saying.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to, just before we keep going and before I miss it, Shane's tip about having the transcript on, video websites. Like, I think that's really important. I got a technical question for you, Sean. If that transcript is coming in through an iframe from another source, does that affect how the search engine sees that content?
I don't know exactly on that.
Okay.
Like, technical SEO is not my super specialty, but
yeah,
what you can do is do a search. So you grab the URL and you type in site : and then you search for that. And then I'm just going to do this so I can actually say how it looks. Then once you do that, like if you look at the results, there'll be these 3 dots right beside where the URL is. If you click that, and then there's a drop down where it says cached. If you click on that, then it will show you the page that Google is reading, essentially. And then there's one more step. Sorry, it's complicated.
Oh gosh, I've just gone. Now we are going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. This is what we do. Go ahead.
So once you do that, there'll be a bar at the top and it'll say text only version. So then you click on that, and then you'll see all of the text that Google is seeing. So
cool. This is a massive nugget. This is a massive nugget for people. Anyone who is in dev and understands some of this, like this for me, I'm just like, I've already got ideas. Let's go.
Yes. So if it shows up there, then you're good. And if it doesn't, then you're less good. But I would also say find a person that's really good at technical SEO and ask them specifically, so that, just in case I messed that up.
Yeah, no, but it's all good. And look,
cool.
I mean, I think,
it's great.
And
actually, we could one thing that I wanted to ask Sean about was he recently sold a package of domains, and I was wondering if he wanted to talk about that or not.
Sure.
All right. Okay.
Tell us.
I love that, because that's, we're about to turn this into the domain game. Let's go. But yeah, because we integrate now with Muse.ai, so they run the transcripts for all our shows, and I think that's a great point about looking at the text only, see what Google's actually reading, what's being cached, because that, because then I also, because I have questions. Not only is it if it's pulling in from an iframe, or if it's a collapsible frame, those kinds of things. I always wonder with that kind of stuff, like, what are the rules around that? So that's like a really cool tip into how to get visibility into that. I think that's awesome. So, all right, well, let's talk about, so you got some, so you sold some names. Like, tell us, should we, would they sold all in one package, or you sold them individually, or what?
It was a package deal. So the story is I'm interested in the psychedelic space, which was a natural growth of being interested in cannabis. And I've just been picking up some domains that I thought were great, over the last couple of years. They're not like, it's not like psychedelic.com or anything. Like, I don't got that kind of money. But they're like nice brandable domains, I thought. So sure. I had them all redirecting to a site. If you typed one in, it would go to the site. And there were probably about 50 there. And one of the GoDaddy brokers was like, hey, I got a guy that wants to buy, or I got a person, I don't know if it's a guy, that wants to buy these 13 domains. And he listed them out. And I didn't want to sell. My plan was like, I'm going to hold these domains and I'm going to sell them for $1 million, one day. Like, I think everyone thinks like that. So he asked me for the prices of them, and I just came back with like ridiculous shit, like all 6 figures. Like, just no one would ever pay that kind of money for them. And he's like, all right, thanks. And I didn't hear from him for a while. And then I was like, coming back to reality. And I was like, all right, like I'm willing to sell them for a lot less than that. Like let's make something happen. And so we started going back and forth. Started some cops or something going by. We started going back and forth and eventually worked out a deal with him brokering on behalf of someone. I still don't know who bought them.
So total package, 6 figures?
Yeah, it was 100,000, and then the way the deal was structured, which is goofy, but whatever, is that I had to pay GoDaddy a commission for selling these names. So it ended up selling for 85 after the commission, even though they came to me. Just the way that negotiation worked out, someone had to pay GoDaddy. Ended up being me.
Somebody, yeah. So you didn't have them listed at Afternic or anything? They just reached. So did you know somebody at GoDaddy that was just contacting you, or did they contact you blind because the names were registered at GoDaddy?
That one, yeah. Okay. I had them on the website, and I mentioned how I'm lazy and stupid. I don't follow through with anything. But I just said, hey, these are for sale. Contact me at the form below if you are interested. And there was no form. Which never put it up.
Well, the different registrars have, Network Solutions has their certified offer service, which is the similar kind of deal where if you see a name that's registered and that's all, and, you can pay them to go chase it down or whatever.
Right.
And, obviously.
And I think in this case, the person buying them was a known entity at GoDaddy. Like they've done a lot of other deals. So they were like, hey, I want these, go talk to this person and get me these, like, let's try and do a deal.
Okay, cool. Well, no, I dig it. I think it's all, that's pretty awesome. So then as far as your domain flipping and investing journey, do you have any other sort of domain sales story stuff that you've, in the past few years that are, notable, worth talking about?
I've flipped several like really high authority domains to, people in my network because, all these SEOs are just looking for names to build on. So it's been like that's somewhere that I've had a unique advantage, I guess, compared to the average domain investor. And also it's nice, like when people know you for something, then they come to you like, hey, I've got this name. It's a DR70. That's, the metric of how authoritative it is. And I'm looking to sell it for X. So I could buy that if it's low enough and turn around and flip it to somebody, or I can act as an intermediary and, take a cut. So I've done that a couple times. The most recent one, I bought a .ai at the whois.ai auctions like a month or two ago. And it wasn't a great name. I don't want to say it just in case, the person doesn't want me to, but it was an okay name, but it had a bunch of AI links. Like all the links were about AI. And so I bought it for a couple hundred, and I was like, I posted on a membership on part of it. I said, hey, who wants this 2,000 first come, first serve? And it sold in like 15 minutes. Like it was super fast. So, I've done a lot of deals like that. Yeah, I did, but I also was just like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, like there was no escrow. So people knew me. It's just like, hey, someone make me an offer, send me the money. Easy.
Hey, look,
money.
You 20x'd it, and how quickly did you buy it and flip it?
I think I had to wait the 60 days, and that's all I waited for.
If you 20x in 60 days, I think that sounds like a Grant Cardone, seminar. 20x your money in 60 days or less, or else you're not a man. Well, good stuff. Good stuff.
I have a question. So after hearing all this, how do you make a living? Where's your main source of income? How do you make a living in SEO?
So it used to be, doing affiliate sites, making, like selling those. I've sold several sites for 6 figures now. And then, I've just kind of, once all that money like was used up for whatever way I needed more, like I just do some SEO consulting, or like look for stuff like this to flip. But these days I have an SEO newsletter that I write. People seem to really like it. I always get a lot of good feedback. And on the heels of that, I'm doing a course on age domains, which is what we call like buying a domain with juice at auction, essentially an age domain.
Dope.
I'm doing a course on that. I'll have like a membership site, getting sponsors for the newsletter.
Oh, very
Like
cool.
that.
What's,
And then taking the odd job.
yep. And that's, is that ranktheory.com? Is
Yep.
that all right.
Ranktheory.com.
So then everybody who's tuned in should go to ranktheory.com and sign up for the newsletter. Is that the deal?
You absolutely should. I send one newsletter out at the beginning of the week. That's like a recap of the previous week. Like, this is what happened in SEO. It's pretty in depth. I just can't bring myself to do like here's the link to this story. Here's the link to the story. So there's a lot of commentary. I've got a lot to say about SEO. And then on Fridays, I send out hey, these are the domains that are going to auction that are worth buying because of their SEO value.
Oh,
so
cool.
I send that on Friday, starting this Friday, and then it's pretty nerdy SEO domain newsletter.
Oh, that's cool. So is there a cost?
It's funny. It's funny. I got your newsletter just recently because I signed up, and it's actually really funny too.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm not very outgoing and funny on video, but in text, I'm a lot better.
You're doing great, man. So is there a charge for the newsletter, or is the newsletter free to sign up?
It's free. Yeah, it's free.
Ranktheory.com, baby. Make sure you go get it. Go get it. All right. Well, that's what's up. I'm actually going to sign up so, all right. Well, and then there was something else that you said that I wanted to ask about. What was it? Well, you said there's the newsletter. Oh, and then the course, which is going to be run. Do you have like what platform or where is that going to be done? Is that like,
it's built in circle.so.
Okay.
That's where the membership will be. It'll be like a lower tier of the membership, essentially. I really hope to launch that in July. I'm writing it all down right now.
Awesome. Well, now that you've set it out there in the universe, now hopefully this will, because for me, I always feel like I need things to motivate me to get shit done that I just keep putting off, because it's like I got to perfect it, or other things come up, but it's like, try to come up with ways. And it's like, I'm sure Shane, with his running and stuff, it's like you run with a partner in his running group so that they hold each other accountable. And it's like, oh, we haven't seen you here in a while. And it's time to get running. He's like, well, I've been 11,200 feet above sea level. Just, actually, when you get back to Illinois and start running with everybody, you're going to be like, you'd be slapping them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it should be better. But that's why I like partnerships. It is, you have some accountability. You have somebody that's on you to do something. There's some people that just don't work well with partners. I've never really gotten that, but everybody motivates themselves a little differently. And from marriage to business, I've always been a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of person. So, but that's not everybody.
No, I'm with it, man. I think it's all good. So, all right, cool. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground and we're pretty much out of time, but I think this was great. Oh, the one thing we didn't talk about was how you first connected with Drew. We had Drew on the show, when we were on our Sherpa review a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I have a question, Sean. Like, I want to know what the house that Drew built looks like, so that I can send my order into him as well, because I'd like him to build me a house as well. Thank you.
No, hey, it's all Drew's taking a lot of credit, but it was all good. It was funny because even after the show, he's like, I hope that didn't come off. I'm like, it came off like the way it came off, but in typical Drew fashion. But I know there's a lot of history, and you guys are really all good. And how did you guys? Because that's when you first connected with Drew around the same time that you connected with Shane, and kind of entered into the space, or what?
So basically, Drew contacted me out of the blue in 2019 in May, and prior to that, I had reached out to chat with him a couple of times because he was in the cannabis space, with Ganjapreneur and all his great cannabis domains. And I just loved that space. And I was just following along with what he did. I was always checking what was for sale, the domains that were going on Ganjapreneurs and the auctions, losing to Drew most of the time because I did not have a big bank account back then.
Yeah, but you got him a couple times, though, I think.
I did. It was very satisfying. Yeah. So, I knew who he was, like super duper, like not not weirdly, but like I knew he was successful. I looked at his success and I was like, that's, what I want to be. So he reached out to me in May of 2019. I was having a shit day. The car tire was flat. I had to get a ride. Like, I live in the middle of nowhere, so you get like a 90-minute ride in a tow truck with the car on the back. And it's this whole thing. And I was just chilling, waiting around, and get this email from Drew. He's like, hey, this is Drew. I work at MediaOptions. Like, Google us. We're a legit company. I've got a buyer who's interested in your site. It's a very serious offer. And I was like, yeah, I know who you are. This is awesome. So you always want to hear from Drew in that kind of circumstance.
Sure,
So basically, I found a site that I bought a site with juice, essentially, with an existing domain, with existing SEO backlinks. And I actually found it through Shane's site. It was one of the ones that he had listed a couple of years before that. So,
is this the FS name? Is it
nope.
First two words are F and F?
No, that's a different one. That's one of the ones where I kind of sniped Drew. Yeah. No, this is a different one that super duper can't talk about because I ended up selling it. There's an NDA, but it was in the cannabis space. It was ranking for best CBD oil, which is a super lucrative term. Just mind-boggling amounts of money for that term. And so someone was looking to like roll up some sites. And so he reached out and he's like, hey, I've got a buyer, like, let's chat. And I ended up selling that site for a lot of money. And I can't say how much, unfortunately, but it was a really nice exit. So when Drew was saying like this is the house that Drew built, like he was saying, because he brought this deal.
I think that's what Shane said. I think that's what Shane said.
but like that's what started. Like that's what Drew was talking about when he was like,
hey, I love it. Look, man, I think it's all good. And I mean, I
he found the name on my site, so I think I'm the bricks. He's the real.
Look at that, man. See, this is what I love about the space, and I got to know you, Sean, through Drew when I started working with Drew. And, obviously there was, different stuff there. And I think it's great, man. I mean, this is like the fact that everybody's known each other as long as they have. I mean, you're talking about going back more than 10 years in some cases. And, everyone's still just chugging along doing what they do and different overlap and all that. I think it's awesome. So all good stuff and good vibes. All right. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground. I mean, so Shane, anything else with you as far as what you got going on? I'm really here to support Sean. I was just trying to make sure, like I did when we first met, just make sure that he presents himself. And that's why I normally don't host and ask questions, but I know the answers to everything I ask, but I know Sean has just great information. So I'm really here just trying to get as much out of him as I could and show the world what a great SEO in person he is. Yeah, no doubt, man. No, and I appreciate it. That's why I asked you, I figured it would be a perfect compliment here on today's show with Jen and I and Sean, obviously. And then Sean, I want to say we squeeze all the juice out, right? But, I know we talked a little offline, but when you talk about what makes an SEO domain actually valuable for domain investors, right? And I know we talked about link juice and, that being a key aspect. Is that like the number one? I mean, are there any other pieces or any other things that, a domain investor, when they're buying a domain, thinking about it from an SEO standpoint, they need to be thinking about? I mean,
I think my biggest piece of advice is like, know what you're going to do with it after you get it, because those things aren't cheap these days. They go for a lot of money. So you're spending like $10,000 on a not super great name with a lot of SEO power, like definitely have a plan for it. And like I said, put a site on it like as soon as you can.
Okay.
Very important.
All right. I love it. I think that's great stuff. Jen, what about you? Anything else before we close it up?
No, this has been awesome. Thanks so much, Sean. Like you've seriously, like so many nuggets in there. And as someone who is in dev, like I really appreciate it. It's like you've shared a lot that you didn't also have to share. So really, really appreciate it. But yeah, before I go, I did come up with a new AKA for you, JT.
Okay.
Ready? And it's a good one because just remember, I came up with Sherpa Winfrey.
You did. Okay. You did. You are the author of Sherpa Winfrey.
JT, AKA John Burgundy.
Oh, I
It's
like,
Ron
okay, I
Burgundy,
like it.
John Burgundy.
Okay.
Come on, you love Will Ferrell. Like, what?
I do. Anchorman is one of my favorites. That is great. I'm in a glass case of emotion. You ate the whole wheel of cheese. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. I mean, Anchorman is one of my joints. So that's all right. I
Good.
like it. All right. It's on
Good.
the list. That's it. And you guys were here to be a part of it. So not just Shane and not just Sean, but I mean, obviously, thank you guys so much for being here. Shane, appreciate the compliment, the complimentary role here and allowing us to bring Sean and get the most value out of him. Sean, super appreciate you being here, dude. We'll talk a little bit about the Sherpa, the Sherpa migration offline. See if we can pick your brain a little bit. But everything that you've shared here today, it's like kind of typical to what we do here on Sherpa, right? We do it on the domain side all the time. It's like we're sharing all this information that in some ways actually gives up a little bit of our competitive advantage. But, we have found that continuing to share and educate, it all comes back around, right? It's karma is a boomerang, like the ones they throw in Australia. So with that, I'll say thank you to my co-host, Jen. As always, thank you for being here on Down the Rabbit Hole. And with that, we're going to say goodbye. So thank you, Sherpas, for taking the time today. This was awesome. And thank you to the audience. As I say on every single show, without you, meaning the letter U, there's no us. You know what I'm saying? U-S, get it? You know what I mean? Without you, there's no us. Yeah. And we'll see you here next time on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains in fair farin, Scottish phrase, which means good journey. And may you travel far under fair skies and even further down dark, deep rabbit holes. All right. Thanks, everybody. Peace out. We'll see you next time here on Domain Sherpa.